Good everyone. I hope you guys have an amazing day. So what I'll do today, I will briefly touch upon the territory management side of things. It's just more from a theory perspective. So obviously, if you're a company um, driving things through your sales process, then obviously you might have considered something around the territory side of things. So, I mean, it's not very common if you're just a one simple company, but if you're a business who pretty much have operations across the planet. So in that case, it's very important to talk about the territory management, right? Because the now what is a territory management, right? So obviously, when you talk about um, the territory management, is usually involved how the teams are divided and who chases down which leads. That's all it drills down to. The reason why, because for instance, for instance, if I'm in New Zealand, right, and if my company deals with, say, New Zealand customers, so it makes total sense for my business sales teams from New Zealand to get work on the New Zealand leads compared to someone from Australia or someone from the United States. Though that being said, right, if I don't have a New Zealand team, it makes total sense from someone from Australia to take care of New Zealand than someone from UK or Sweden or someone from US because of different reasons, right? The geographical location, first of all, and the second, um, it's more from a cultural context as well because people often like to interact with someone who sounds a little bit similar. I mean, that's just one example I'm just giving you. But that being said, right, companies have different priorities when it comes to which account will be given to which team. So it's just not only about the zip code, right? There are a lot of other factors that comes into consideration, and that's very important from a business perspective. Like I said, if you're a very small firm, right, if you're a very small business, then obviously you don't really need to worry about much. I mean, even though you might say, hey, let's say you're based in New Zealand, can you look at Dunedin customers? Can you look at one team might be looking at Wellington customers, one team might be looking at Auckland customers. So even from that perspective, the territory management do plays an important role. But if you only have a business based in Wellington, and your sales team is all based in Wellington, and you're looking after, let's say, a customer from Dunedin, then obviously it makes no sense for you to, really get into the detailed nitty gritty stuff. But I could be wrong, right? Even among small business, they might have different process. But so what I wanted to cover from an overview perspective, what it means and how it fits into your sales funnel, right? So obviously, when I said about the territories, right? You obviously have to divide your territories based on a company goal, right? So a few things you need to ask: are you trying to expand into new market this year? Have your product changed to suit customer in a new industry? And how are you going to address the total addressable market in and are you targeting a certain size of a company this year? So that's a few of the points, but your business might have more options, right? So these are the minimum questions you should be asking, and based on that, you can decide how I wanted to scale up my team, how I wanted to distribute my sales team based on the geographical location or based on other factors, right? Now, like I said, you cannot always like obviously, I'm teaching this from Trailhead. If you want, you can get into more details from Trailhead. But I just wanted to give you an overall concept so you understand what it means. So, like I said, right, the very simple way you can do, you can say, hey, I want the Dunedin team to only look after the Dunedin team, and New Zealand team, sorry, Wellington team should look after the Wellington team. So that's based on the zip code, which may or may not work all the time. So, like I said, based on your company goals. So let's say if based on your zip code is not an efficient way do to split up the accounts among your teams, then you have to consider different themes, right? Like geography, size of the company, propensity to buy, industry, and the number of companies. These factors, these feature set could contribute to a decision. Um, the number of accounts that needs to be handled to a certain number of group, a certain sales group, compared to a different ones, right? So obviously, sales reps works with quotas. So you need to make sure that everyone get fair share of quotas, right? You shouldn't be doing like, hey, my Dunedin team gets 50 accounts to work with, and whereas the Wellington teams get 100 accounts to work out, or figure out how to bring the money to the business. That's not really a great way to do things, because then you're causing an imbalance. But like I said, right, different companies work, do things in a different way. Um, so that's one of the things you need to factor into consideration. The one size will not fit for all. Like I said, some companies do uh, split the territories based on zip code. It may work. I'm not saying it won't work, but if you think it's not going to working out for it's really not. If you think it's not working out for you, then obviously you need to consider a number of companies, geography, size, propensity to buy, industry, all these combination to see if that's something you can leverage. Yeah. So that's from a basic overview perspective from a territory management side of things. Now, obviously, one more thing I just wanted to talk about, like the way this, like the Taylor said, you should do like a Salesforce way, like build smart sales territory plans. Obviously, how do you do that? There are certain things you can consider. Plan for growth. So when you're planning for growth, you should not always consider what you have in hand. You should also consider what you might get, what your future pipeline might look like, right? So you need a new team to target certain areas, which we are not doing at this stage. Let's say you're planning to expand the business to, let's say, Australia. So do you need a sales team to focus on that? So you might form a team where the accounts from Australia will be handled by them. So that's something you need to factor that if you're envisioning for a bigger picture. Avoid disruption once you have, that's very important, and I personally believe it's very important point to consider, because obviously if you laid out your territory plans, let's say an Australian customers will be handled by a team from Australia, then you should not be disrupting that plan to say, hey, let's bring a team from the United States to deal with Australian customers instead of using Australian sales team. So if you know what I mean. So if you're planning to if you're divided your accounts based on territory, please make sure that they're the plan what you're going to. Please make sure that it shouldn't be disruptive, right? You shouldn't be changing it every month. You should at least hold on to for 6 months to give the stability to your sales team, right? And there are other teams, right? You should lead with data, be fair. For instance, when I say lead with data, let your data do the talking, because everything is driven by data inside. So obviously you should trust your data. That's why you might have to use Einstein or other predictability software. Maybe you can use Data Cloud, or maybe if you don't want to use the Salesforce stuff, you can use, if you have inbuilt capability to build machine learning, then you should be using that. And be fair, what I meant to say with that was, let's say, you're assigning someone, let's say, 100 accounts to deal with, and you're assigning 50 accounts to someone, and out of 100, let's say, the 80 accounts are dud accounts, means basically there is no future for that, and most likely they will not be converted um, to opportunities, right, or potential customers, compared to 50 where everyone is a potential customer. So that's a kind of a big bit of an imbalance. So you need to make sure that you balance those, 100, 150 in such a way that you distribute equally, right? So that 75 uh, number to each, and out of 75 in each group or in each camp, you have the balanced numbers when it comes to the customer who will not be interested to go further, along with the customers who will be very keen to be part of your customer journey, right? So you need to factor those things into consideration before you make any kind of decision, right? And always you should have room for improvement, room for adding more opportunities. For instance, you should not be rigid. Your plan should be flexible enough, because what happens that if your plan is very rigid, then obviously you will not have enough space to make amendments over the course of time, and that's not really a great way to do a territory management, because that will frustrate a lot of your sales team, because they will say, hey, that team is getting enough leads and they're getting better bonuses because they were able to convert those leads into opportunities, compared to our team where we're not getting enough opportunities, right? Because of most of our customers are dot customers. What I mean by that is that they are not interested to become our customer, right? Right. So that's, I hope that's clear. So it's very important that you plan your territory management strategy in the right way. Okay, so let's say everything is planned. Now, how do you measure your, uh, you know, the sales metrics, right? Obviously through the pipelines, right? Any business you've associated with before, then you might have heard this terminology saying pipelines. Some might even say, hey, we cannot hire new people because our pipeline is a bit thinner this time. What that means is that the company do not envision to translate those projects in pipeline to an opportunity for the business. So you might be talking to, let's say, four customers, and out of four customers, it's very unlikely that the three of them will be keen to sign up with you, right? Maybe one might be interested. So that's what you say. The pipeline is not very strong, right? So what is in trans? So what do you have in the stage, and what do you expect from it? So that's how, in a simple term, from a pipeline perspective, right? Um, and obviously, some companies measure the pipeline quarterly, some do monthly, some do, maybe fortnight, depends on the business, right? So that's why pipeline is very important, right? Without pipeline, there's no way you're gonna get the money to the business, right? So there won't be any cash flow, because that's why some of the consulting firm, if you ever get a chance to work, you excuse me, you should pay attention to the pipeline. You should pay attention to the conversation around pipeline. Some, business executive might say, "Hey, our pipeline is very weak this year, so unfortunately, we need to lay off a lot of people." So that's why the conversation of the layoff even happens, right? It all depends, driven by pipeline. If the pipeline is very weak, then obviously there won't be any such thing called job security, though there's no such thing called job security in 21st century anyways. But that's besides the point. So pipeline is very important from that perspective. So that's why territory management is very important. So that's pretty much I wanted to cover. I hope it's clear. It's a very simple concept, but it's very powerful from a sales perspective, because you are actually distributing the right amount of work to the right team so that you can maximize the profit, and also give the sales team an opportunity to prove their talent, make them feel happy, earn more commission, and drive more business, right? That's all to it at the end of the day. So I hope that's clear, and I hope you guys have an amazing Monday. Adios.